I've never met a successful entrepreneur who didn't live by a few simple rules. And when you don't know those rules, business can be so much harder. And I've watched people just grind it out for decades and still not hit the 8-figure mark. And I personally, for the first 10 or so years of my life, literally lived on credit cards because I was making poor decisions. I mean, thank God, I'm making much better decisions in my life right now. And I know a lot of other people too who consistently start businesses now who hit the 7-figure mark in under a year and the 8-figure mark in under 2 years and the 9-figure mark in maybe 5 to 8 years because they know what it takes to be successful. And the most successful people are successful in every area of their life. They're in shape, they have great faith in their life, they have strong family values, and they make the people around them better. That's why I'm excited about today's episode, because we're joined by Chris Gannon, who's the co-founder of Bolay Restaurant, which has like 23 locations and growing right now. Plus, he's been awarded the most innovative emerging company award, the CFO of the Year award, the top 40 under 40 award, the Ernst Young Entrepreneur of the Year award. I'm sure I missed a bunch of them, but that comes from a mindset that success is a team sport. Push yourself, you lift others up, and you win together. So like I said, the most successful people are successful in every area of their life, not just in business. And if you look at Chris's Instagram, there's nothing about building his company. It's about his team, and it's about the 6 nonprofits that he's part of, and it's about the triathlons that he's done with his friends, and it's about his amazing wife and kids. And by the way, before all that, he was the youngest player ever to win the US Open Polo Championship. And the reason why I wanted to list all of that is because outward success is often seen as competition. But when it's done right, it's built on an inner drive to serve others. And when you light that fire, man, it spills into every area of your life and everybody sees it. So I am really looking forward to getting into this. And if it's okay with you, Chris, I'd love to start by asking you when that drive to build people up really started in your life.
Well, thank you so much for having me on, Chris. And when you give that intro, I'm like, hey, who's he talking about? And sometimes I don't realize because you kind of not really think about that stuff. You just keep going and rocking. And I would say I have always been surrounded by incredible influences, whether it be when I was a young man and I had incredible Marines who've helped shape who I am and see around where I was. And then watching my father build his incredible organization and lift people up. And he always told me it's really cool to get to the top in business, but it's even cooler to bring people with you. And I think the true testament of people in leadership is not just seeing how they've become, but it's what they've been able to do for other people. And if you can lift people up while lifting yourself, I think, that quote for me always resonates. When you lift the lake, all boats rise. And so we're always trying to lift the lake here and rise everybody's boats. And, we're not perfect, but we try.
You mentioned your father. So let's go into that because that's your earliest mentor, right? So when we're talking about the traits inside of you that just have become ingrained that equate to success in all these different areas, I have to imagine a lot of it stemmed from him and your early years, especially because he's a businessman.
Yeah. Well, before we jump there, I want to just trigger a thought. And I remember when I do triathlons, and I remember one time I was going to run a little slow one time, and this lady ran by me, screamed by me, a 67-year-old lady. And she's like, come on, you can do it. And her little push pushed me. And now whenever I do a race, and when you're in the middle of a race, you're gasping for air. Every time I pass somebody, I say, come on, push, push, push. And I realize when I push them, it gives me, it's this weird, it's going to sound cheesy, but it's this little like turbo boost. It just gives you that endorphin lift. And in that moment, when your heart is banging 180 beats per minute and you're in your red zone, that little endorphin push is just gets you along. So I've learned when you push other people, it pushes you. When you educate other people, it makes you smarter. And so I think that, I love that question, and I'm going to lean more into that, Chris. So thank you for that inspiration. You inspired me to think deeper. So then back to your question about my father, I've never seen such a creative, inspirational human being. My father is a dreamer, and he can look at things and see how to just take something that's not there and make it something beautiful. He can build teams. He's won the US Open 5 times, and he's done that by not becoming, he's not the best polo player in the world. And I was by far not the best polo player in the world, but he surrounded himself with the best polo player in the world. And he allowed them to go win and get the horses they need to build the team. He allowed them to choose the other teams. He allowed them to choose the plays, and he showed up and supported them. And then he's at on the podium, getting, I always tell people, what's the best feeling that you could get? And it's probably going to be the title of my book one day. So I got to find a way not to spill it, but the best feeling is champagne, the burn of champagne in your eyes. Until you've ever experienced the burn of champagne in your eyes, that's because someone sprayed champagne on you when you're on the top of a podium winning something, right? Whether it be a race, a polo, a team sport, and a triathlon. That champagne burn in your eyes is a magical feeling.
That's amazing. He kind of spoke into your life with values from a sports perspective, but give us an idea of the business aspect also, because he's got his hands in this little business, right?
Yeah. He was the co-founder of Outback Steakhouse, and you talk about it, the dream team, right? I look back at the Outback team. It's like the Michael Jordan dream team that won the Olympics. And I watched him, Chris Sullivan, and Bob Basham, and what they were able to accomplish on, they wrote Outback Steakhouse on the mirror after seeing the movie Crocodile Dundee of a restaurant, and then they went open and grew it to 1,200 plus units. Restaurants are in 27 countries. Took it public. And in a time where it was a challenging restaurant industry, right? Interest rates and all this other fun stuff. And they did it by building people up. They built an incredible culture of pouring into people, and realizing that that's what a great business takes. And I watched my father. Here's my inspiration, anybody who's listening, and we do it here at Bolay. Anytime you can, we have an open door policy that if you want to bring a child or a young man or woman who is aspiring to get in the restaurant business, teenager, even my 9-year-old daughter, we bring them into some of our meetings, and we allow them just to watch and listen. Obviously, if it's a HR meeting or something proprietary, we don't. But anything else, there's no rocket science or secret sauce we're doing. It's just the execution. But we do that because I remember my father brought me into some board meetings that no kid could ever get to see, and I just watched my father. I even videoed him. And I watched how he would ask the most articulate questions to the team in the room and have his idea blossom inside their head to where it was almost their idea. And then when it's their idea, they're behind it, they run with it, they're inspired to run through walls. And while I have not perfected that, I am working on that, because I think that that's a skill. It's an art. Can it be honed? Can it be done? Yes. But I think my father, just watching him lift people up and build something, the bloomin' onion, right? One of the most iconic appetizers in the history of the world, right? You have the hamburger, you have a French fry, you have incredible creme brulee desserts. But what signature appetizer has defined a category? And if you look at the bloomin' onion, for me, taking a commodity item, an onion, not very exciting, and making it a magical dish. And so I watched him, still trying to figure out what my bloomin' onion is, but we're building something different. And I think Outback served and is still serving its time in the American diet and palate. But I also see Bolay right now as transforming the American palate and diet with our better for you cuisine, with great flavors from our New Orleans palates, worldly flavors, but also being 100% gluten-free. So yeah.
I don't know if you know this, but I spend one day every week, and I've been doing this for the last 15 years, helping other entrepreneurs to grow. And I'm not talking about companies that I own or the companies that I invest in. Every year I work with 28 other companies using the same strategies that we use to grow companies inside of my personal portfolio. They grow their revenue, they grow their brand exposure, they grow their team. Some of them come because they want to sell for a big exit. Some of them want to buy other companies. All of which could happen for the ones who qualify and get into this program with me. And it's called Club 28. Now, if that sounds like something you feel like you're fit for, then the way it would look is that you and I would work together closely. And that could mean me opening up relationships that I've built. It could be showing you the frameworks that we currently use, or it might just mean you tapping into the experience that I've accumulated over the past 30 years of growing companies. But this is limited because, like I said before, I only do this one day a week, because every other day I'm working with the companies and the teams that are inside of my portfolio. And it's not cheap because it's one-on-one with me. But if you can handle more growth and you want help from somebody who knows what it's like behind 8 and 9-figure brands and how to get there smoothly, then I encourage you to apply for the next opening. Just go to chrisguerriero.com and apply to be part of Club 28. I'll try to put a link inside of the description here, but if not, then just go to my website and apply to be part of Club 28. And if you get in, I really look forward to meeting you. Listen, we have way too much to unpack in what you just said. So I'm gonna just drop 3 things or so, and hopefully it's not gonna be a complete cluster. Number 1, I love the fact that your entire premise for Bolay is, and I'm gonna use a different word than you used up probably, but is health focused. My team, way before you and I met, years before you and I met, my team has been ordering lunch from you guys on a regular basis. And by the way, I'm so fanatical about not allowing food into the office that is not at least relatively healthy, right? I really believe in, your physical and your mental focus when you're working and how big of an impact food has on that. But during our team meetings, Bolay is something that's like one of their foundations. And I love it. And I'm really grateful that they like it as well. So I'm grateful for that. I love that about you. I want to, at some point, get into how you created that, because I know that has a lot to do with the fact that you are health focused with your life, but also palate focused, where you've traveled the world in search of these different little nuances that make the dishes that you serve really, really great. From a business standpoint, you talked about the ideas that your team come up with, which is something that we are so adamant about, is that we try to coach people on our team to bring out their best ideas, because when an idea comes from a team member, they'll go to war for it. They will take ownership. So many entrepreneurs that I talk to, one of their biggest challenges is their team. One of their biggest problems is, how do I get my team to actually be autonomous and do things, yet they're yelling orders at them and telling them, this is how you have to hit your metrics, as opposed to having great team meetings like you're talking about with people, having them come with great ideas and becoming a good question asker yourself so that you could coach those ideas out of them. Because when they come up with the ideas, man, autonomy is the last thing you have to worry about as an entrepreneur. Like you gotta almost slow some of these people down because they wanna just run through a wall for you.
Yeah, it's the incredible difficulty of going from a founder, right? This crazy ping pong, handle 15, 30, 50 things a day,
Yep.
taking every problem on yourself, and then growing into a leader, a CEO, that you can't keep doing all those things, or you're just going to keep doing that. You're never going to scale, right? So you talk about having the ability to go from those different number metrics, right? It's all relative. And I am by far not an expert in it. And I'm continuing to work on that craft of leading people, working on how to ask them the right questions without being interrogatory, without leading the witness, but really genuinely asking them the questions that pull out the knowledge and have them creatively ask. And quite frankly, Chris, you just did it to me, not knowing, but you asking those great articulate questions at the beginning of this, you pulled out something in my brain that is there, but I forgot it. And so I'm writing notes, trying to do this as well, as I'm inspired in this discussion. And I think if you can do that, you leave someone inspired, follow up with them, hold accountability, right? Have a high level of excellence that you want within your organization, and the team will step up, or you'll find the right team that can step up. And that's a challenge, right? I think, look at the NFL. You got the most amount of money in the world chasing the best of the best talents, and how difficult it is to go win in that environment. And it's because of the ones that are dedicated to that extra inch of finding the best talent to join the team and make the whole team come together. So that's why I have utmost respect for NFL recruiters and head coaches, just from what they're able to do. And then obviously any other sports endeavor as well.
So I'm the worst person to ever give a sports analogy to, because I don't watch sports, and I understand that's sacrilegious to most people, but I just don't. However, I met a guy a long time ago. He's gone now. John Wooden. Ever heard of his name?
Oh yeah.
John wrote a children's book. Now, by the way, John, amazing coach for many, many years, his entire career. He has wins because he built his team up as individuals. And a lot of his coaching was mental coaching. And as he got older, he created a children's book, which he gave me a copy of, signed it, and I read it to my kids almost every night as one of the many books. Because, it's a small book. We would read that book as part of like 4 or 5 that I would read to them each night. They would choose their 4 or 5 to put them to sleep. And that was always one of them. It was called Inch and Miles. And it was all about winning is a matter of inches on the field. I don't know why I brought that up, but you said something about inches in sports. So I figured I'd do that.
Well, when we all build businesses, great, awesome. Can you build human beings, great human beings as well, right? And so many leaders and CEOs find that to be such a challenge. And it is the demanding part of building a business, right? Right when we got kids that need all of us as well. And if you can balance that by also being a great spouse, by also being, connected to faith. And Matthew McConaughey had a great graduation speech I listened to, and he's always said, check in with yourself, man. Check in with the big guy above, check in with yourself, check in with your spouse, check in with your kids, check in with your work, check in with your friends. And when any one of those is out of balance, that's when life's out of balance. And balancing all of that in today's world, with all the things we have coming at us, that's the true challenge. But if you can raise great human beings, I think that's bigger and better than doing anything else, because that's the next chapter of humanity.
I agree. And it's sad to think that in today's fast-paced world, people are getting into business and they think they're in a race to build $1 million company, a $10 million company, $100 million a year company. When in reality, the companies that grow the fastest with the least amount of plateaus are in a race to build the people inside the company. It's across the board. Rarely, it's not unheard of, but it's really uncommon that I meet a company that does it any other way. Like that's just pushing for growth in their numbers. It's just pushing for growth in their revenue. That's just pushing for growth in a new product they're coming out with. It's rare that those companies really succeed in a big way. It happens, but the great majority of companies that hit the fewest amount of plateaus are the ones that invest the most in the people inside of them. So, which is one of the reasons why, I like hanging out with you. You and I, when we talk, and we started talking about this before we hit the record button tonight, the things you talk about always have this undertone. Like you and I talk metrics. We talk about when you're in your restaurants, where the napkins should be, where the salt shaker should be, the small little things. But underneath every message that you and I are talking about, it always kind of comes back to the people, which is fun. Like we were out, was it lunch? We were just out to a few weeks back or something like that. And and we went to one of your competitors and we just sat there, not because it was a competitor, just because that was the easiest thing for us. And you literally like offered somebody a job. Because you saw value in the way she took care of us. That's your personality. Like you're literally looking for people all the time, which I sat there saying, I don't know that I could do that. Like I would see somebody and then I'd probably send somebody from my team in to go and see if they're looking, but you didn't miss the opportunity. You're like, hey, tell me about yourself. Tell me about your goals. Tell me about how you like it here. Tell me about what what your aspirations are. And then you saw a fit. And it wasn't just the action she was taking, but it was also the words she was using when she was talking to you. And that was it.
Yeah. My wife reminds me all the time, hey, can we go out to dinner or lunch without you trying to recruit the people? And I can't. It's an obsession. Like when I see talent, and I say that, right? We don't hire people at Bolay, we select talent. And I learned that by the world famous Deanne Turner from Chick-fil-A, who's a dear friend and incredible human being. And she always taught me that you do not hire people, you select talent. And selecting talent, you never know where you're going to find somebody. One of our greatest operators, JT, I found he was a bartender at this restaurant we used to go to. And every time I walk up, he had this smile ear to ear. And you're, hey, Chris, great to see you. You're going to get, same thing. What can I serve you? Hey, Jack, your wife, blah, blah. And I remember telling him, it was a great story. Hey, JT, will you come on board to Bolay? I'm about to start this new restaurant concept. And he's like, yeah, well, tell me more about it. So, well, I don't have the name yet, but it's going to be amazing. He goes, you don't have a name and you want me to leave my job and come to you? I go, yeah, I do. And I came back in. It took me 5 times to go in there. Finally, he goes, all right, I'm tired of you begging me. And I did. And he's still with us today. He's running our #1 restaurant. And it's the fun. That's the fun part of this, right? It's the finding great talent, watching them grow and blossom and create lives. And it's It's why we got in this business. Restaurant business is about the people. We just so happen to serve food on the side, but it's really about the people.
Take us back to your first Bolay, your first restaurant. And I don't know if I saw a picture of you at some point where you were standing there with a shovel. I think that was your very first one, but I'm not quite sure. It was
Yep.
on your Instagram.
Bolay
What were
Wellington.
you?
Yep.
What's that? Oh, that was the one in Wellington?
Right there. That was the original. That's where all the dreams came true. And I remember sitting down with the landlord and him asking me the same question. Hey, they had this last space available and it was us and 5 other concepts. And he's like, well, Chris, tell me about the concept. Well, it's going to be gluten-free. It's going to be amazing. The food's this. And he goes, what's the name? And I was like, don't have that yet. He goes, you don't have the name yet. I go, no, but trust me, this is going to be the greatest restaurant of all time. And I looked at him and I was not walking out of there without. And it was just that defining moment. And I think, Chris, if we didn't get that lease done, it would have put us back 6 months, a year, and Bolay might not have gotten kicked off the way it did. It is just so fortuitous on how that all happened. And he took a leap of faith with us, and we built the restaurant, came up with the name Bolay after the fact on the back of a napkin in an airport. It means nothing. We created the word bowl and Olay to have fun building a bowl, because good luck trying to find a name now for an organization that's not already taken or used in some hashtag and something, right? So yeah, and that was the most fun part of our business, right? It was sitting around the table with the group every day. How to make the business better? Do we go this cup, that cup? What do we do to make the guest experience better? And it was magic. It was truly magic, and it was probably the most fun part of the business was then, because we didn't have all the higher level fun of running a business now that you do. It was back then, it was shooting from the hip, no analysis. It was from the gut. It was from the hip. It was from all of our past experience. And it was a bunch of dreamers. We started in my garage. We created the juices in my garage, like every other story, got him out in town. I even put him in my neighbor's, he has an alligator. He put him in his pen with the alligators for pictures and had them on, all around town. People were taking pictures of juices in Wellington on their horses. It was just, we were loud. We were loud. We hung balloons that went over, as 440 run right there. And we broke every rule, the city rule, and we got fined left and right. And the team was coming to me, and I say, these are great. These fines are awesome. I love these. I love paying the fine. I ever told my team the other day, guys, we're not getting enough fines for marketing. We're not pushing hard enough. We're not trying enough.
So we should put a disclaimer here by saying nothing that we're about to talk about should ever be done. We're not recommending this. However, that's how I grew also. My very first, I was in the health club industry for well over a decade. And we had a bunch of locations. This is in New Jersey area. And just like you, I had my blinders on, my head down, and just charging forward. Like there was no, how are we going to make revenue? There was no metrics. I didn't know what the heck. I didn't even know the word metric back then by any means. Didn't know what a system was. All I knew was we need to sell memberships in order to make this month's rent, right? And then lease payments, and then all these other fun things. And I remember explicitly a day that we printed out flyers, and I thought to myself, and by the way, I still truly believe this, the easiest customer to get for your business is somebody who's already doing business with your competitor, because they already paid a tremendous amount of money to convince that person, right? In the health club industry, it's tough to convince somebody to get off the couch, put the donut down, get in the car, drive to this very, uncomfortable place, and then work out around a bunch of other people and possibly look like an ass. So it's tough. But once those people are convinced and they're going to health clubs, now we just have to get them over to our club. We have to be better than that other place. We have to service them a lot better. So what we ended up doing was, instead of placing huge amounts of ads, because we had 5 other competitors within a mile of one of my locations. And we went out and we put flyers on all their cars on Monday night. Monday is the biggest night in any health club, right? Everybody feels guilty about the weekend, so they go in. That's usually chest day for a guy and leg day for a woman. Everybody's swarming those clubs, and the parking lots are filled. So we put flyers on every car out there, totally against township policy. We got fine after fine. And one of the owners, it was of a Gold's Gym in the same town, came into the club, my club, with the flyers. He ripped them off of every car, and he threatened, like he was at the front desk. This is all recorded on video. I wasn't there. Like screaming at the front desk saying, I need to see the owner, get him out. I'm going to fucking kill him. And he went through this whole rant. I watched the video and I'm like, oh my God, this guy's freaking upset. Rightfully so. But we grew so much that 4 of those 5 eventually went out of business or sold because we were doing things that were far less expensive for marketing. And we were just servicing our people so much better than they were. We knew what they were offering, and we just offered better stuff, better service, better towel service, better free coffee, free everything. Like, it was just come in and get a good workout in. So I didn't mean to step on everything for
No,
Bolay, but like, I love the direction that you guys are in.
it's what it takes. It's what it takes. And the hard part is, how do you maintain that? How do you maintain that magic in the early days that created us, right? And then as you build, you become another big organization. So how do you stay, outsmart the chains, outchain the chains, and outchain the locals, right? Is that saying?
Yeah, well, you think outside the box, which goes back to what we were talking about before. Become a better question asker for your team. Your team has every solution that you ever need to grow, from 7 to 8, from 8 to 9 figures, from 9 to 10 figures. Doesn't really make a difference. I'm very blessed to be on board of directors, to have companies inside of my personal portfolio, to have companies inside of our mentoring program who are at every level of this. And they do 2 things really great. They are great question askers, and they are wonderful at recognizing their team. Because when you start asking your team questions about, well, what do you think we should do to grow? 2 things happen. Number 1, your team, and I don't care who they are, I can tell you one trait that everybody on our team has, no matter what industry you're in, without ever meeting them. Everybody on our team is great at spending your money. So their best ideas they come up with, the first ideas will always be the most expensive. You know what we should do? We should buy that TV station, and then we own all the advertising on it. I mean, they have such great, beautiful ideas that just break the bank. So we have to get them comfortable at, coming up with ideas on a regular basis. The second challenge is that they're scared as hell, and they don't believe that their ideas are good enough because you own a company. They serve people, your front counter. What kind of idea could they ever give you that they would see as valuable? But the best ideas we've ever had in any company have come from our team. Most of the time from a customer support individual, somebody who's right there talking to people. But once they start asking good questions, like, the best companies recognize them. They just say, that's great. Like, the reason why you're working our front counter is because you're a rock star, because I trust you to talk with the people, like, to be the front line of everything. That puts you in such a unique position that I want to hear. I don't have that opportunity to talk to everybody. You do. Just share with me. And that recognition makes them even more comfortable. They come up with more answers to your questions. So it's this cycle, and it's wonderful. And you guys are in it. When you verbalize it, you don't verbalize it. You're living it.
100%. I always say that, and I inspire our leaders to do the same. Our front of the house guest service team members, I always say that they have the answers to all of our problems. They just don't know how to articulate it in advance. But we, as leaders, asking them the right questions, we can extrapolate the information, and we get all this data and guest surveys and this and that. I love it. I think data is great, but the best data is being in the restaurants and feeling it. I can tell real quick why food cost is off in a restaurant, why it's doing great, why we have lines out the door in one restaurant and why we don't in another. You can just smell it right when you walk in. You can feel the human energy, and that human energy percolates, and the guests feel it, and they want to come back. Like, human beings, we're so attracted to energy, positive energy. And so the more you make that positive energy within whatever 4-wall business execution you're doing, it's like I always say, we're like lights to flies, or flies to lights, excuse me. Human beings just love that. That's why you go into an empty restaurant or an empty bar, you walk right by it. You go into a full bar with a line out the door, or a full restaurant with a line out the door, or a ride that you see's got a line. You're like, man, what's going on over there? I want to go to that one. So simple.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. That's a wonderful analogy. Hey, how do you coach your people? Did you have internal mentors or big training programs? Because you're finding great people, which is, a big piece of it. But to keep a great person great is magic, right?
Well, I think what you said earlier resonates pretty big with plateaus, right? Businesses, I learned real quick over this journey that we've been in at the game for, almost come up at 10 years now, that it's not always just this straight vertical incline. Although at the end of the day, if you're, continually going up, you're winning. But, I think our listeners want to hear the wins, but also the opportunities. And I'm always radically transparent. I think we took our eye off the ball and our training and development and keeping up with training materials, which is the backbone to giving people the right clear direction. Or watch, well, how does our U.S. military do such a great job? It's because they have an SOP to drive a nuclear submarine where it's not going to drive into the ground. And how do you teach an 18 to 20-year-old young man or women to go out there and drive nuclear submarine? Systems, processes, checklists, and crazy dedication and focus to it. And I think along our journey, we took our eye off the ball and the importance of that. And we felt it. We really, truly felt it. We felt it in retention. We felt it in guest satisfaction, quality, the whole thing. And so our major focus right now is getting back to training and development and having it so deep into our DNA of becoming a learning and development organization. Because when you're growing people, I think everything else follows. So we're going to continue to work on being a training and development organization. And I really look forward to one day someone asking us, hey, why are we spending so much money or energy in training development? And I will be able to articulate and show data behind it of this is what happens when you take your eye off the ball of this. Here's why we're doing that. Here's the investment in.
Yeah, you have, what does Bolay have? Over 600 employees, or I'm going to use the word employees. You're going to yell at me, aren't you?
53 beautiful, wonderful team members, because we win and lose as a team. Employees are for what everybody else has. So we are very adamant that Bolay is a team who wins together and loses together as a team.
So then when you're doing trainings, are you doing, in our organization, we have a very clear-cut system, and it really depends on what level somebody is at, whether they're a C player, a D player, or something else. But in general, maybe there's a 2-week training period, and then after the 2 weeks, they get to work, right? They're doing everything so that they get a chance to go into the fire and put the skills to work and really see what it's like to implement everything. And then we pull them back for 2 more days, because what we find is that most entrepreneurs want people to get out of training and immediately just skyrocket and be the best employee ever. Rock stars are not created that way, in my opinion. Rock stars are created when they're trained. First of all, they're great people. They have the foundation in them already. We chose right. That's our responsibility. Then we train them on the basics. And during the training, they're also doing some stuff, but then they're 100% on their own for a short amount of time. And then we pull them back in and we retrain them on anything that they had problems with. Because what happens is people go in, they forget the middle part of everything that they learned. They remember the beginning, they remember the end. Then there's some little stuff over here. When they got into the fire, they just got confused. But if we pull them back for a little bit of training, now they hockey stick up. Now they're like, I got it. Now I see it. And everybody always has a mentor, no matter what stage they're at inside of the organization. They have a mentor who they could call for anything. Where's the bathroom located on this floor? Or what do I do when a customer says this, or a prospect says this, or another team member approaches me to do something that's not really something I should be doing? It's not in my top 3 or 4, key tasks that I'm supposed to be doing. They're asking me to mop the floor. What do I do? So they have a mentor to handle everything. So that's been a big deal for us. And then everybody is part of our annual meetings also. So since we have all hands on deck and all minds on board for our annual meeting, everybody every year feels like they're now part of all the decisions in the company and the projections of the company. And they get a chance to meet and enjoy time and break bread with everybody in the company. So it solidifies it. So you guys have a magic formula because you got 600 plus people who love Bolay.
Yeah, I think I just took a lot away from that, and I'm definitely going to explore that. I think I love that because you see that we go through training. We have an invalidation process that we are enhancing to make it to where it's not just one person, but it's going to be multiple people. But as you know, I relate back to, when you go to get your pilot's license, right? You get a license to learn, to continue to learn. And I think that that's what this is in our training and validation process. You're just validated to take your learning and training to the next chapter. So how do we inspire that and keep that going and keep that laying in development? Because every single day you come in, it's something new, some new opportunity to learn. So I'm definitely going to be taking that takeaway back to the team on how we can enhance it and make it better. Right. I think one of my greatest mentors, Cody Lowry, in the marketing, when I was at a marketing ad agency, he always had this quote, take fast and make it faster, take sharp, and make it sharper, and believe that no matter what you do, you can always do something better. And if you have that mentality to always take something and realize that it can be developed, made better, you'll never quit trying to win. You're never there. And so I think you'll never be there, right? We're constant learners till we're of the day of our passing, but we have a long journey to get there. We're so green, and we want to become the best. And the best comes from that relentless pursuit, which is exhausting. It's hard. It's hard to keep fighting and digging every day, but if you love it, you'll win.
Dude, I agree. It's like entrepreneurship in itself is lonely as hell. It's scary as heck. Sometimes you don't know if you're getting paid, and especially in the early years when you have to pay everybody else. There's a lot of drawbacks to being an entrepreneur. So hard is a really good word for it, but fulfilling. Like, I don't know anything more fulfilling than being an entrepreneur. And maybe I should take a step back. I don't know anything more fulfilling than being in a position to be able to help others really live a great life, to build a family of their own, to become leaders in their own right, to expand and feel fulfilled in their own lives. Like that.
Yeah, and I've been to a lot of award ceremonies and so on and so forth, where I've seen these great leaders, these great entrepreneurs who have achieved an immense success. And I've heard a couple of them say, and now I'm going to become a philanthropist and dedicate my time and energy to that. And I get it, and I respect that, and everybody's different. But for me, I've always been, on a few different charity boards. Yes, it's a lot, but if you have a skill set that you can offer, and not only, it doesn't always have to be money. A lot of times it's advice, stewardship, connections, doors. When you become a business leader, you inevitably get a lot of new open relationships and the ability to pick up the phone and call people, and they take your call a little bit faster than someone else particularly, right? And I always say, along the journey, if you can give back with either resources, money, right, connections, or your time. And not always, because you have to be focused on building your organization first. But if you can lend that skill set to go help others become better, do it along the journey. Don't wait till you're at the end and you've achieved whatever you've achieved. Do it through the journey, and it's so much more gratifying. And you're building these little mini businesses, whether it's a nonprofit or it's a for-profit. You're still building an organization up there. So.
Hey, speaking of organizations, you and I have a unique opportunity to hang out with a lot of other business people. Some of them struggling business people. So when and I know you get asked by a lot of people, well, what do you do? Like, how do you build this in? How do you do team stuff? What metrics do you look at? How do you bring in investors? So when you see companies that are struggling, what do you think the top 2 or 3 things are that most of them are struggling with?
For the most part, it's always top line sales, right? I think, what I've learned is along this journey, a lot of people are good at coming in an organization and finding ways to save or cut or find more efficiencies, right? Like that's still a skill set, still challenging, but growing sales, growing raving fans, growing people, and selecting talent, that's the true genius of business. You can do that. Everybody else can go look at a P&L and see how you cut, and save, remove. It's who the true genius in business is when you can add raving fans, guest count, right? Whatever business you're in, whether it's gym memberships, whether it's selling more product on Amazon, whether it's subscriptions, whether it's foot traffic or guest count in our restaurants or catering. The true genius is, how do you go get more people to want to get your product? And I think I see a lot of organizations, people always struggle with that, right? Because we all get pulled into so many different things. Remember the early days when you and I were starting our businesses? We weren't pulled into all those other distractions. We were focused on one thing. That was getting more people. The rest solved itself. And as you're saying, I'm kicking myself in the butt here to focus on that more than anything else. Because it's true. When you grow that top line number, a lot of the other problems go away. Top line cures a lot of evils, everything. And so without top line, you can't have a bottom line. That, and I also find myself, again, whether it's a direct competitor in the restaurant business I was texting a guy the other day, hey, here's a challenge I'm dealing with. Make sure to go ask X, Y, and Z in your HR compliance stuff, that we took our eye off the ball on. Oh my God, thanks. I didn't even know that. I talked to a few other CEOs. I didn't even know what those numbers were. And I feel like every time we hit a bump in the road in business because of all the regulatory compliance, all the fun stuff that our beautiful government imposes on businesses to navigate, I try to always pass that knowledge on of what we did wrong, sometimes too much to our direct competitors. But I don't know. I've had so many people give me great advice, watch around, support, help, love, kindness, that I feel like it's my duty to continue to pay that back, right? Pay it forward and just keep giving that knowledge on to other leaders so they don't make the same mistakes that we made, because like you and I both know, I think you can equate business to golf. The more you can keep the ball in the fairway down the middle, sometimes not as how far you hit it, it's just keep it in the lanes of the fairway. The moment you start getting out in the rough and in the woods, in the water, worst case is the stay out of the water when you're building a business, right? Stay out. The water's your plateaus. Keep it in the middle. Keep going straight, and stay within those guardrails. It's never gonna be perfect, but if you can stay in that fairway, and you're gonna keep winning, keep driving, you're gonna win.
That's a good analogy, right? So how many people have you gone out with who are newbies to golf, who get up on the tee and they try to smash the ball? And it may go further than yours because they hit the ball harder, but it's in the woods, it's in the water, it's in the sand, it's in the rough someplace. And yours is a little bit shorter, but it's straight on. It's a nice straight path to the pin.
And I'm by no means a great golfer, by any means, because I don't.
Then we should go golfing.
Right? We don't have the time. I'm a fun golfer. I'm the fun guy out there, and really enjoy it and connecting with people. But no, it's consistency, right? It's consistently, moving that ball down the middle of the fairway is what wins. And I know I give my wife credit when I play against her. I, of course, always can, hit the ball farther, but she is 100% straight down and typically can beat me because I'm trying to do what we just said, hit it as hard as I can.
The man in the relationship, you should always be trying to impress her. Hit that
right
hard.
That's right.
Eventually, it's going to go straight to, and she's going to be like, that's my hero.
That's right. You go enough in the water, so it's not fun sometimes, though. But yeah.
Hey, you guys are expanding, right? We didn't talk about that on this show, but you and I have talked about that in the past. What are the metrics that you look for to know that you're ready to expand?
I always listen to a great CEO, Waffle House, and he always said, I don't grow my restaurants or raise prices unless I am positive traffic count, meaning year over year served more guests this year than you did the following year. And if you have declining traffic, there's something systemic within the organization. So when you are positive traffic, that means you're doing it right. And my father always taught me that growth is a luxury. Do not grow unless you've got the foundation right. And obviously you can build some stuff along the way, but making sure that you have the foundation. And one of my best friends, right? I keep bringing all these people because I am defined by the people that I surround myself with. And I think everybody is. Show me your top 5 best friends, and I'll tell you who you are, right? My best friend, Keith Miller, he's always taught me and influenced me in business that, hey, crawl, walk, run. And he equates business to bamboo, right? You plant it, you don't see anything from a growth perspective. It's growing its roots. You water it, and all of a sudden it shoots up. And then bamboo grows 2 feet a year, and it's like massive. And so he's always inspired me to really focus on building a great business, and then it will compound. And I'm watching him grow his business with a 0 debt, 100% cash in all of his investments. And it's very inspiring, right? Just by doing it right. It doesn't mean you have to go from 0 to, billions in a couple of years. And everybody grows at different paces, but as long as you're doing it right and removing the plateaus, a wise man taught me that one. Less plateaus is the key.
Yeah, growing right, such a huge lesson. And by the way, like nobody starts knowing that lesson. That's something that you learn from getting hit in the face with a hammer enough times. Everybody wants to get in there and they're like, I'm different. My idea is different. Like I'm going to show them. And we get in there and we really try to hit the $1 million mark fast, the $10 million mark, the $1 billion mark. And the faster you try to do it without the experience or the lessons, the more mistakes you make, the more it ends up costing you. I tell people all the time, like, one of my first businesses looked wonderful on the outside. My competitors were jealous about how amazing we looked on the outside. My revenue was consistently growing and my expenses were consistently growing, either at equal pace or maybe sometimes they beat my revenue. And I would sit back thinking, how do you do this in business? Like, how big do I have to get before my expenses are less than my revenue on a regular basis so that I could do this thing called, I don't know, what's it called? Profit, you know?
Cash flow positive is a beautiful word. Cash flow
Yeah.
positive, meaning more cash.
Which you should be from, maybe not from day one, but pretty close to day one. You should always be focused on that. I was taught, and I forget who taught me this. I wish I remembered. A guy told me one time, you need to sit on your wallet. You need to stop the bleeding. And once you start doing that, once you start looking and really analyzing, and we have a data manager in each one of our companies now, their only job is to get accurate data to me every single morning so that I know how to make my decisions so that we meet or exceed expectations and keep our expenses as low as we possibly can while we're still growing, right? Which means we feed the things that are going to keep bringing in more growth for us, because the more growth we have, the more people we could touch, the more people we could touch, the more people we could help, right? So we always want more exposure, which is what you were talking about before, more people coming in. And we always want to invest in our people to make them stronger so that they're happier and they come out there and treat people wonderfully. Listen, I'm going to flip this real quick and I'm going to go to some more personal stuff, if you don't mind. What are, I don't know, 2 or 3 things that you refuse to sacrifice? Let's make it 3 things you refuse to sacrifice, no matter how much growth it would add to your business.
Being part of my children's upbringing and lives. And I will say it's not always easy. It's not always perfect, but because it is always a give and take. But I know that, the way I was raised, good or bad, my mother was working 3 jobs to try and keep things on the plate, take food on us. And my father was off building his Outback Steakhouse, which is not easy to do. And I was always surrounded by love. We didn't always have the best of the best things growing up, but we always had the thing. Right. And I think for me, the love is what you remember as a young kid, and that foundation. You don't remember if you had Nikes or the Walmart brand. You remember the love and how they were given to you, right? So we try to do that. So I try to make it to every soccer practice game that I possibly can. It's difficult. Maybe go back to the office after the fact. But even sometimes I'll have my wife FaceTime me from the event, and because I can always step away from something for 20 minutes and the kids just to see that I'm watching them and seeing them do that. And I think, when you're raising kids, as we all know, it's a small window, right? It's 0 to like 12 or 13, and then they're teenagers and they're kind of off doing their own thing, and then they go to college and blah, blah, blah. And then you become the friend versus the parent. So I know it's a window of life. And unfortunately, that window of life coincides right when you're building the business. I wish, our creator would have done it a little differently. I wish we could raise kids and then do business, but unfortunately, it typically comes at when you're doing both. So that's just something that we do. And then always investing in my marriage, my relationship, to make sure that that's strong. And again, it's checking in, right? It's never always going to be a perfect balance, but when you find one of your aspects of your life out of balance, you check in. And I remember my father always said there's 3 L's in life too. Love who you're with, love what you do, and love where you live. And if you have all 3 of those L's in harmony, you're going to have a happy life, right? If you don't love where you live, but you love what you do and you love who you're with, you're going to be a little frustrated. Vice versa. You don't love who you're with, you don't love what you're doing, it's going to weigh on the other 2 things. So getting those 3 things in harmony, which is not easy. The things we're talking about here is not easy, and is not always perfect. And it's a journey to get there. But I think that's the beauty of life. It's that keep digging, keep working. And the biggest thing I try and teach my children, and I talk to myself, is what I've found is that I'm by far not the smartest guy in the room. I am by far not the most educated, but I will dig and dig to the nth degree until I get a solution to whatever problem is thrown at me. And I think business is nothing but a bunch of not problems become opportunities, but the more you dig, the answer's there. I mean, unless you're Elon Musk who's trying to put somebody, colonize Mars, that's a little bit above my pay grade. However, everything else I think is pretty solvable. The answer's there. You just got to keep digging and don't give up.
Yeah, I love the order you put everything in. I think I tell people all the time, you have to have a reason why to do things. Like entrepreneurs ask a lot out of life, a lot. Like, I don't know where the investment's going to come from, but I need, $25 million to come into my company in order to buy that building and to expand, whatever it is. Big things without a reason why, you give up fast. My reason why, and I've said this a million times, so anybody who listens to my podcast, they already know my kids are my reason why for everything that I do. And for you to say that it goes by fast. Yeah, my daughter's leaving for college in less than a week. And when I think of her, I still think of when she was whatever, 5 years old, 10 years old, whatever. And to think that she's going away to college, and we're not going to talk about this because I'm going to, start tearing up. But with a reason why, you will go to war for anything and you will succeed. You'll find creative ways to do things. As long as you have the right values, that reason why is going to drive you in the right way. And, the other thing that you said, which I thought was profound, when, you wish God, maybe put things in a slightly different order so that we could put 100% of our focus to business and 100% of our focus to family. But I think the way it worked out in my life, I mean, it was tremendously difficult to always be part of my kids' life and also grow multiple entities. It was very, very hard. Yet, as I look back, without that, I wouldn't be the person that I am. Like, I wouldn't have the fortitude that I have. Like that forced me. And the key factor is when you must fit things in, you find a way to fit things in. And then you are now more efficient in how you do things. You find a way to put fitness into your life. How many entrepreneurs do you know who are unhealthy and hence unhappy, no matter how much money they make, because they just don't have the inner health to be fully happy at all times, right? You find a way to put it in.
Mind, body, and spirit. Gotta have them all healthy.
Gotta have it.
Gotta have it.
And you do it in such a wonderful way, because you mentioned your wife before. Your wife, I mean, I don't know her. I know her through, what you've shown me on your Instagram. Like, your wife is she's an amazing person. She and your daughter, right? Your daughter, because of your wife, it looks like your daughter competed in an adult triathlon.
Yep.
Like, they did it together. Like, you have
9 years old.
where they're crossing the finish line together. That's inspirational. That's
9 years old. I'm so proud of Piper. We got her an adult triathlon there. Like, I think she's below the 8. I'm like, don't worry about that. Let's keep going. And just kind of walked right by the referee and, hope they don't listen to this. But the waves are 4 foot crashing. And I looked at her and my wife and I were like, what are we doing? And I jumped in the water next to her and I just pushed her through the waves. And once you get through those first waves, you just swimming side by side with them. And she did it. And it was just one of the proudest moments I had as a father. And I reflect back, Chris, at what you said about dropping your daughter off to college. And I have a YPO forum mate who just is dropping his son off and teared up. And, the best thing that we can always say to each other, and even when we go against hardships, is, we're blessed that we get to drop our kids off to college. We're blessed that you got to make it that far. Think of just tragic situations or whatever it may be. You're blessed that we got to make it this far with them, in the world, and that they're off to their next chapter. And now you're your best friend now, you get to go be best friend, not dad anymore. And I don't look forward to that day, but when we get there, we got to get there,
And it's another stage, and it's going to be an amazing stage. And every stage with kids is amazing, amazing. Hey, in family, one of the things that I found was integral to me, because, and I'll preface this by saying that most entrepreneurs have a challenge separating their business from their family, and they bring the stress to family, which always degrades things. Like, I don't believe you could walk in the door from a stressful day, bring the stress, even if it's just for 30 minutes, and then it's out of you. It's now in your house. And that negativity is not forgotten by the people that you infected along the way, just in those 30 minutes. And then that's what they get to know is your personality. And then that's how they treat you like forever, right? So you're training them through your actions. So what was always very important to me, if I'm going to an office and then coming home, is having a drive, 30-minute drive or whatever it is, to have a buffer between my work, good day, bad day, whatever, and the time I get home. So that when I walk in, I'm walking in as dad. I'm not walking in as whatever. And then if I'm working from the house, because I have a home office also, I don't open the door until I've had a few minutes of silence, 30 minutes usually. And I remember, this is how I learned this. When my kids were very, very young, they would listen for my office door to open. And as soon as they heard the doorknob, they would charge from wherever they were in the house and just like, dad, 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 dad. And they wanted to tell me all about everything. And that was it. And without having that buffer, I would feel it like build up inside of me. Like, just give me a second. I didn't say it, but I could feel it. So anyway, how do you handle that?
The same. I try to, and it's not easy. It is so not easy to balance that. A lot of times, unfortunately, on that 30-minute drive, I'm calling somebody, talking to somebody, and I realize I'm still on the phone. I pull in the driveway, and then the kids are running out, and I'm working on that. It's challenging, and then this beautiful technology that's always ever present, balancing that, getting our phones where kids aren't seeing us on our phones all the time. So we're trying to work on practicing putting the phone down, going back to it later on at night, and get back to work later on at night if need be, but given that, couple hour window when you get home to be present. Cause I went through that. I tried to realize like, I'm going to work from home a little bit and be around more present. So I'm around, where you realize you're not really around. Being on a phone, a conference call, walk around. Yeah, you're around, you see them, but they want your energy. They want your time. So it's almost, I found to be a detriment, like when I'm around trying to work versus being fully present. And I think that's like anything, right? When you're in a meeting with your team, being present versus on your phone, emails, all the other distractions. Same thing with your children, right? Or your wife or your spouse on date night, right? Your friends, being present. And that is so difficult today with everything coming at us left and right. And we're working on it. I will not say we're there. We are working on it.
I'm gonna make you feel real good for a second. I interviewed my son, and I forget what the title of the video was, but it was something about how your children see you as a CEO, or something like that, or the lessons he learned growing up with, a crazy entrepreneur father. Maybe that was the title, something like that. And it was, we didn't practice anything. We literally just sat down and we started talking. He had questions for me. I had questions for him. Chris, it was the most heartfelt podcast I'd ever done. I mean, to this day, I just think of it so fondly. But he said things about, listen, I learned from watching you. He goes, and I forget exactly how he put it, but basically he is where he is, not necessarily because of what I said, but because what he saw. And what he saw was business ethics. And what he saw was me building some other people up around me, speaking highly of the people around me, whatever, doing all the things that you and I have been talking about. Your kids see everything that you're doing. That doesn't mean that it's okay to take time away from them, to always be on your phone. But it also means you should never purposely not be on your phone because your kids are there. They should see you caring for somebody on the other end of the phone. When there's a problem coming up that only dad could handle, my dad could handle it. He could take care of that for somebody, and then he hangs up. And then everybody else is doing good stuff. And now I got him. Like, that's a lesson that sometimes we miss as entrepreneurs that seeps into our kids.
I love that. I'm definitely going to be doing that one.
Yeah. I mean, and think about, you learned from your mother. You learned from your father. Like you spoke so highly of your mom and what she went through for you. And then the things that your dad built, they both influenced Bolay in a huge way.
And I think too, on top of that, our parents are such incredible influences in us and shape us, to your point, just by watching, right? But then I also, a little pro tip or tips here is, some of my closest friends, we recognize real quick the influence we have over each other's children. And that sometimes advice from Uncle Chris is stronger than dad. So we will talk, hey, before we get together with the families, what are some things that you need sharpening up on the kids? Oh man, we're having this. So I will then over that weekend try and be like, hey, what do you think about this, this, and this? And it's coming from Uncle Chris. It's not coming from mom or dad. And so you strategically do that, and that's the planned side. But the other unplanned side is just surrounding yourself and your social groups with great people. So that way your kids are around other great people as well. Like I said, I had a lot of military, specifically in the Marines, around when I was younger, and their influences on doing things right, hard work ethic, tough grit, patriotism has just shaped who I am as a human being, along with all the incredible mentors that have been around me from business. And then the friend groups that I have from my college best friends that have all gone off and created incredible businesses, and just watching and leaning in on them and us sharing best practices with incredible open book and honesty and humility. So we all learn from each other. You know, it's a game, right? It's just a different playing field. And that's why we talk about business as a sport. I truly believe it is. It's just a sport. It's just on a different type of playing field. And it's a game. And you want to win the game, you've got referees, you've got guardrails, got rules. You got to have a team. You got to win. You got to get the ball from here to there. And how do you do it? Right. There's so much synergies with sports. Back to business.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting because, in sports, there's always, wins and lots of chaos in order to get to the wins. So give me an example of when things were absolutely totally chaotic for you and how you stayed sane. Like, what tools did you use to stay sane in the most chaotic time of your life?
It's easy, no matter how tough it gets.
I just pre-framed this complete chaos and you're like, it's easy, man. Let me tell you.
Well, no, because I even know vividly some situations we were just kind of had our backs against the wall and things didn't work out right. It was just waking up every day. And you're like, all right, what problem am I going to go solve today? I thought outworking the problems were going to be the solution. And I realized that wasn't it. I realized getting off of the success things that I know win, right? And part of it is working out. Doesn't have to be bench pressing, but me not going for a run, not exercising, getting that endorphin high, that positive high, the moment. And I remember my father told my wife, get him back running, get him back exercising. And the moment my wife said that, I got back out, and it's just exercise. I can't stress it enough. And not because I'm, he's some health nut. That's not for me. It's not for me. It's all relative, right? I'm not saying go be a triathlete tomorrow. I'm not saying go lift double your weight. I'm saying go for a walk. Go get it. Go sweat. And when you sweat, you're getting rid of negativity. It's your body's natural negativity. And then, whether it be a walk, hopefully at a good pace, not just a casual walk, but I found that whenever things were chaotic, going back to the winning formula of mind, body, and spirit.
Yeah, dude. I don't know where I read the study. I think it was in the Mayo Clinic. It was in one of the large clinics where, this is dating back a long time ago. So this is old technology, but one of the doctors set up tape along the floor of all the floors in his area. And, he required any meeting that he ever had to be a walking meeting. So he got his entire team to walk with him while they were having meetings. If they wanted to meet with him, they walked. Somebody else would meet him at another part and they would be walking. So the entire day was an active day. And they did this study, and for the life of me, I don't remember. It's been well over a decade since I read this. But I'd love it if somebody put in the comments, here's where you found this, or that's bullshit, whatever. There was a level of productivity increase because they were constantly moving. And the productivity increase, my guess is that it came from the fact that they were making clearer decisions because they were less stressed, like you're talking about. So getting out there and sweating, just moving, like being active so that the blood actually goes where it has to go.
I've given like some all company meetings and, our partner summits and so on and so forth. And I realized real quick when you're starting talking where you can just see kind of the eyes are glazed or tired or whatever. All right, everybody stand up. I get the whole room. We're going to do a Bolay 15. And we do 15 jumping jacks, and you get down and you see everybody's more like the receptors are open, and that's what I've always learned is getting those receptors open. I remember we had a child psychiatrist through a YPO forum to speak to us, and she showed us the difference of a child. And I think it equates to us too. In the morning, your receptors are kind of beating like this real slow. And then when you're alert, you're focused, you're like this. And then there's moments with your kids where you're like, so on the very slow and on the rapid, you're not connected. It's that middle perfect ground of that receptors being open. And I've realized that with our children of when to connect with them. And she taught me what it was profound at getting down to their level. So when I have to coach my kids, I call coaching, I will get down on one knee and speak to them eye to eye. Because think about when someone's speaking down to you like this versus eye to eye. It's a different thing. And so when you're coaching down like this, you're intimidating the kid's fear, blah, blah, blah. When you're eye to eye, you're speaking to them as another human being and the respect is there.
So does that mean that when you're talking to your shorter team members, you bend down also? Because I think that would be considered bullying.
No, but I have found that that coaching and standing in our restaurants is difficult because they're always focused. When you just say, hey, let's go sit down for a second. And it kind of contradicts what we were just talking about movement, but our restaurant operators do not need to worry about movement. They are on their feet right along. They are machines there. And I'm, grew up managing restaurants. So you just build this toughness in your legs, but sitting down, having that face-to-face conversation, all the noise kind of goes away and you have that a lot more dialogue than standing up.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hey, I have one last question for you and then we'll wrap up. But this, like, you're dropping gold. I really appreciate everything that we're talking about, but this kind of is going to sound like a softball question, but I think it's such an important thing to people that are building companies. You and I talked offline about downtime, making sure that we instill downtime in our life for clarity, for the ability to process things. And I talk about this all the time with my team, about there's got to be this time of silence in your day, a time when you're not listening to podcasts, you're not listening to music, you're not distracted by social media, you're not scrolling, you're not whatever. I don't care if it's time on the toilet or time in the car on the ride here, whatever it is. There's got to be this time of silence, this time to just relax your body and your brain so that your brain could process thoughts. And I know I become significantly more clear. I used to take an annual trip once a year, all by myself for 7 to 10 days because it took that amount of time to stop my business brain. It took like 3 days to stop my business brain. Then the rest was, here's where I should start, here's what I should stop, and here's what I should continue. Like those were the 3 paths that I would always go through. And I made some amazing decisions. If for family, for businesses that I wanted to buy, for businesses that I wanted to sell, for investments I wanted to make, things that there was just so much noise in my head before to really know that I was making a clear thought. So like, what do you do to like instill downtime into your life so that you could be clear?
I think I really love being in the woods and outdoors and in the water. I've also found that me personally, it's going to sound contradictory, I don't do well with silence, quiet, downtime. I mean, I'd probably need it because I'm just kind of like go. I have found that my greatest creativity, and it might sound cliche, but comes from when I'm on a run. And it's weird how it just makes my brain fires on another level. And I have to stop a lot, take notes, write down quick in my notes section of my phone, because I know that when I get back, it's kind of like gone. Because you're just, all right, now go shower, get ready. But I find that my greatest challenges come from, and I remember reading the gentleman who Phil Knight's book, the Nike book, about how he would just constantly go on runs to solve his problem. And not that I'm some massive runner, but I do find that, and I do need to find more time for quietness, but I don't do well with quietness. I do well with more, but it's a distraction. So it's more the alone time, and what makes your brain work in alone time without distractions, I think, is the key. But I'm the same though. I can't always solve my problems, Chris. I think that's why it's so great to have mentors like yourself, coaches, business coaches, life coaches, shrink therapists, whatever, because they, like to your point, are great at asking the right questions to pull it out of our brains. And not that, even if it's a CEO, doesn't mean that we're flawed in many ways. We're just human beings that still need someone to help pull the answers out of our brains to get to the solution.
Yeah, that's huge. That goes back to what you were saying before about the people that you surround yourself with. It's not just people who feed you, but it's also people who will allow you to think better and to pull the right thoughts out of you. And by the way, the running part, brilliant. I get some of my best ideas when I'm working out, and I don't stop to write notes. I take notes on my phone. So if we open up my phone app my notes app on my phone, I cannot even begin to tell you how many thousands upon thousands upon thousands of notes I'm sure are in there. But I think physical activity must chemically put us in a better position for our brains to work significantly better.
Yeah. And you know, it's fun. I have the same, my notes are insane. I'm a huge writer. I go back and reread some of my notes of the early days, and it's crazy the ideas it'll bring you back. And it'll also, you'll see like your focuses and what you focused on. And you look at a lot of the problems are still the same ones. They just come back and you're like, wait, we already worked on all this. Let's go back to this. And because again, not, you know, it's the same issues, it's just on a bigger scale, you know.
Where do you like to keep those notes? Are you keeping them on your phone, or are you physically journaling them, or like real big notes?
I go back and forth everywhere. I put a lot in the computer because I realize, or my phone, right? The notes app, because I can get to it anyway, quick, fast, reference it, search it. I have a lot of my leaders who are using the digital notepads, the Remarkables and all that. I've got one. I try and use it because I know that, you know, it's good to reference for that same purpose. But I have physical notepads. I got one right here open and writing all the notes here for all the things I'm going to go back and work on. It's kind of everywhere. And that's the challenge, right? Mine's the same book. And, you know, it's fun because Warren LaRuth was a famous chef, and, you know, out of New Orleans, K-Paul's, who created the blackening season. He was one of my father's mentors. And they, when he passed, went through all his notes, and they could, you know, kind of look at his brain, his recipes, his challenges, his this, that. And, you know, he had a lot of great notes in there about my father. And so they sent us that as a gift to just say, hey, here, look. And it's just kind of a neat little legacy. He's like, what are you going to do with that now? So yeah, it's helpful. I think, you know, leaders are readers. And I also believe immensely that unless you have a photographic memory, first thing I tell when I'm coaching somebody, say, do me a favor, pull out pen and paper or your notes section. Let's write this down. Because, you know, what I've learned is when you're giving direction, coaching, how much is being retained, how much is being listened to, even in this conversation. How much do I remember of this conversation? Because we touched on so many things, but yet I can go back to a few bullet points that I want to go back and work on, right? And recap. So
yeah, super. Chris, man, this was great.
It was good.
I love hanging out with you. Thank you so much for joining us. You are welcome back anytime. Next time you come back, I want to be brainstorming on how you built the next 23 locations.
That's right.
Thank you.
I got ideas.
My goal with this channel for the past several years has been to give you access to some of the exact same frameworks that my team and I are currently using to grow the companies in my personal portfolio. But I want to make sure that we're giving you what you want for free. And the easiest way for us to do that is if you simply tell us in the comments what you want most. Now, I think we've been very, very fortunate because a lot of our viewers go over to our website and they either download the free reports, or they get involved in one of our programs, or they just plain chat with us there. So I know that a lot of our viewers are entrepreneurs or CEOs, or at least seasoned business people. In fact, most of our viewers have passed the 7-figure mark. Some have passed the 8-figure mark, and a few have even passed the 9-figure mark in their business. But I only know that for those of you who clicked over to our website. What would be a really big help is if you comment on this video and then tell me what size business you have, or tell me what you're struggling with, or just tell me what you want in an upcoming video. It only takes a moment of your time. Just tell me something about you or your business or the information that you would like more of. And then my team and I will go through every comment so that we keep giving you the exact content that you want right on this channel. So please take a moment and share just a little bit about yourself in the comment section. And if you're getting value from today's content, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe so that I know that you like this one. Thank you.